Hello, friends. My name is Darren Gertis, and I'm a professor who tries to provide context in the war in Ukraine. Every time the Kerch Bridge was hit, I've talked about it at length. I've discussed it. I've explained what was going on, and I want to talk about Kerch Bridge defenses in this video, what Russia has done since the bridge was attacked. Back in July, after the second big attack, Russia deployed boom defenses around the Crimean Bridge to block drone strikes. And I'm going to talk about what they've done since then as well. But let's talk about boom defenses. Moscow has laid out floating spiked boom defenses in the hope of fending off Ukrainian drone attacks in Crimea, according to MASH, a Russian news outlet known for sharing exclusive content sourced from Moscow security agents. Booms are long barriers deployed on water that aim to stop surface drones getting close to their targets. So they've learned something in the process, and they work to get that sorted out. Boom defenses are physical barriers similar to anti-submarine or anti-torpedo nets, which have been around for decades. They could be used at the opening of the harbor point or even to protect specific assets. Barriers such as booms force uncrewed vessels to navigate even after they break into the harbor's perimeter. They need to circumvent the barriers in order to get where they're trying to go. But that's not all that they've done. Here more recently, this was just a few days ago, this came out. This was September 7th. Today is the 8th. See these boats in the harbor, these ships? Okay, the Crimean Bridge, currently guarded by 6 boats and 5 ships of the Russian Secret Services. I think that's wonderful. And it's wonderful because it's forcing Russia to dedicate resources to this that they can't dedicate elsewhere. Maybe these boats wouldn't have even been in the fight, but they're having to wrestle with another problem set beyond the front, the counteroffensive, and everything that's going on there. That's what the beauty of the drone strikes in Russia is all about as well. And are they going to hit the Kerch? I'm pretty sure they're going to hit it again, and I'll explain that at the end. We're observing a large group of border guards around the so-called Kerch Bridge in the Kerch Strait. Most of them are located south of the bridge. Some of them are to the north. But of course, they're expecting it to come from around from Odessa and all the way around rather than come through what is Russian-controlled territory. Pedalchuk added that although the Russian occupiers have set up some barricades against Ukrainian uncrewed surface vehicles, there are no fences that would completely protect the bridge from Ukrainian drones. Listen, they can strike on the sea, they can strike from the air, and again, there are defenses for each of these, and they're also working on underwater submergibles that could be essentially drone submarines, and that's going to be a game changer when they roll that out as well. Here's another article, 6 boats, 5 FSB ships, occupiers strengthen security of the Kerch Bridge, says the Navy. It would be recalled that according to British intelligence, the aggressor state, the Russian Federation, uses smoke generators, that's another defense, underwater barriers, and air defense systems to protect the Crimean Bridge. Earlier, the defense intelligence said that the Russians were sinking ferries to protect the Kerch in the Crimean Bridge. Okay, so they're sinking boats so that things can't get through. Like, wow. Okay. Here is the British intelligence update that they were referring to. This was 1 week ago, because remember, they struck about a week ago, and I think they struck on the 2nd, if I'm not incorrect. It could have struck on the 1st, but this came out on the 1st, and the British update usually lags a few days after an event. So I believe this was before the last time that the Ukrainians tried to strike. Okay, the Kerch Strait is a bottleneck for military logistics support to Russian forces in occupied areas of Kherson and Zaporizhia Oblast. Russia is heavily reliant on the Crimean Bridge and the ferries to cross the straits. So they really need this bridge to function. They can still function without it, but it's far less than optimal. And it's also a very important symbolic victory if they can take out the Kerch Bridge. Russia is employing a range of passive defenses, such as smoke generators and underwater barriers, alongside active defense measures, such as air defense systems, to strengthen the survivability of water crossings and minimize damage from future attacks. The bridge's importance for both logistics and symbolism of the Russian occupation mandates these extensive protection measures. One of the last jobs that I would want to take is working for the Russians being in charge of having to defend that bridge. I can't imagine that guy is going to be successful long term in his career. As of 29 August 2023, imagery confirms Russia has created an underwater barrier of submerged ships and containment booms to deter against uncrewed surface vehicles. Attacks against the Crimean Bridge. At the southern part of the bridge, this includes several vessels 160 meters apart. These are located at the same place as the Ukrainian Sea Baby USV attacks of July 17th. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to attack that same place. It would be great to attack the place that's going to block up all the ships coming through and underneath the bridge. That'd be great to really do that. But if they take out the bridge in another place, that's pretty good too. Previously in September, the Russian Navy briefly trailed radar decoys on barges for several days, likely to deter radar-seeking missiles. Other countermeasures to protect the bridge include the use of TDA-3 truck-mounted smoke generators. With an exercise conducted on 24 May 2023, the smoke was activated to deter incoming air threats on 12 August 2023. And we saw all that smoke and we're like, wait, did they actually hit it? Didn't they hit it? What's going on? So that's what was going on there. Now, the Russians have employed other things as well. So, for example, Russia's killer military dolphins are defending its Crimean naval base, and they might be used around the Kerch as well. These dolphins are trained in order to do something, but I'm not sure how effective they're going to be. But the United States, North Korea, and Israel also use trained dolphins to protect bases as well. I don't think they have enough to spare for the Kerch. In other news, Russia accused the U.S. of planning to drop malaria-bearing mosquitoes on troops. I mean, they seriously accused the U.S. of doing that. This was the head of Russian Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Protection saying the flooding of Kherson region planned by the Kyiv regime can complicate the situation, including with regard to airborne virus infections. And he went on and talked about how they were going to use these killer mosquitoes. Let me go a little bit further. After a drop in the water level, it is impossible to form foci of diseases transmitted by mosquitoes, primarily West Nile fever. Yeah, so we could just target Russian soldiers, I suppose, with these killer mosquitoes. And that's not realistic. But what was realistic was this. The Ukrainians near Bakhmut, there are 600,000 Ukrainian combat bees. Now, they're not actually going to sting people. They're just making honey. That's what bees do, who serve dutifully. Improvised apiary was set up just 2 kilometers from the front line. The bees regularly fly on missions beyond it, to go get pollen. Serhai, a paramedic radio operator at the medical station, assembled the hives from ammunition crates, and now throughout the summer there's always been a fresh supply of honey. Well, that sounds like a novelty or maybe a dessert or something like that, but it's not that. Honey reduces swelling and encourages the flow of lymph to heal the wound. Like you put honey in tea when you're sick, there's a reason you put honey, not sugar. It's actually healthy and good for you and helps you heal. So Ukrainians are crazy in smart in their ingenuity, in their ability to be able to just improvise and adapt and overcome. Okay, so the last attack was about a week ago. Russia says it thwarted another Ukrainian attack on the Kerch Bridge. And this was September 2nd, 2023. And when I asked my community how long before the next attack on the Kerch Bridge, this was 9 days ago, and they were pretty close. 17% said September 1, but the vast majority of you said September 15th. So I'm looking forward to something in another week, maybe 2 weeks, something along those lines. So thank you for voting and thank you for being part of the community. If you are not subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so. It's just Professor Gertis Explains. I try to provide context for you so that you can understand what's happening in the war in Ukraine. Thank you for the likes and the subscribes and the shares and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.